Hello and thanks for joining us. This is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon of First, our top stories. INEC proposes over 873 billion naira budget for 2027 elections. VP Heshima arrives Ethiopia ahead of AU summit. Governor Fubara dissolves a Rivers Executive Council. Judge withdraws from EFCC cases against Malami. On international scene, Marco Rubio warns Europe of new era in geopolitics before big Munich speech. And in sport, Ademola Lookman scores as Atletico Madrid hammer Barcelona 4-0 in Copa del Rey semi-final. Those are our top stories. Details coming up in just a moment. Details of the news. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has projected a total of 873 billion naira, 778,401,608.08 naira for the conduct of the 2027 general elections. INEC Chairman Joash Amukpiton disclosed this on Thursday while presenting the Commission's 2026 budget proposal and a detailed cost estimate for the 2027 elections before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Electoral Matters. A breakdown of the proposal shows that election operational cost accounts for 375 billion 748 million 195,271 naira 47 kobo, while election administrative costs stand at 92 billion 311 million 591,396 naira 58 kobo. The Commission also projected about 209 billion naira for election technology cost, reflecting provisions for electronic systems and related infrastructure. In addition, election capital costs are estimated at over 154 billion naira. Those for components amount to over 832 billion naira. INEC further included miscellaneous expenses totaling about 41 billion naira, bringing the grand total for the 2027 general elections to over 873 billion naira. Amukwiton clarified that the election budget is separate from the Commission's proposed 171 billion naira allocated for the 2026 fiscal year, which is intended to cover routine operations including by-elections and off-cycle polls. During the session, lawmakers raised concerns over funding mechanisms and the implementation of key provisions of the amended Electoral Act, particularly the electronic transmission of results. Chairman of the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Samuel Lalong, stated that the National Assembly will thoroughly scrutinize the proposal before approving what it considers adequate for seamless nationwide coverage. He emphasized that while INEC presents its financial estimates, the constitutional responsibility to approve and appropriate funds rests with the legislature. The committee also indicated plans to review funding for members of the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) to be deployed for election duties following a request from the scheme for increased financial support. Under the proposal, each corps member is to receive 127,000 naira alongside 4,500 naira for feeding and 5,000 naira for training over 5 days. Approximately 450,000 corps members are expected to be deployed for the forthcoming general elections. Meanwhile, members of the Joint National Assembly Conference Committee constituted to reconcile differences in the Electoral Amendment Bill passed separately by the Senate and the House of Representatives are expected to meet on Monday as lawmakers move to transmit a harmonized version to President Bola Tinubu for assent. According to information, the joint panel, made up of members from both chambers, has been given a one-week window to resolve contentious provisions in the bill, notably those dealing with the electronic transmission of election results. The decision to harmonize the bill follows the passage of different versions of the Senate and the House, particularly on the role of technology in result collation and transmission. Under legislative procedure, where both chambers pass varying texts of the same bill, a conference committee is set up to produce a single version acceptable to both sides before transmission to the president. The current amendment process is coming on the heels of the controversies that trailed the 2023 general election, especially the failure of the Independent National Electoral Commission to upload presidential election results to its result viewing portal in real time. Civil society groups, opposition parties, and several lawmakers have since pressed for clearer statutory backing for the electronic transmission of results to prevent ambiguity and strengthen electoral transparency ahead of 2027. Although many lawmakers have remained silent on the likely outcome of the harmonization process, some admitted privately that they were keenly awaiting the meeting to know the committee's final position on the disputed clauses. Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia for the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union AU Heads of States and Government. His arrival was confirmed in a statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications, Stanley Nkwocha. Representing President Bola Tinubu, he will also attend the 30th ordinary session of the AU General Assembly. The meetings are scheduled for 14 and 15 February 2026. Shettima was received at Bole International Airport by Ethiopia's Minister of Innovation and Technology, Belete Mola. Also present were the Ethiopian State Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Berhanu Shegaye, and the Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar. Upon arrival, Ambassador Tugar briefed the Vice President on his schedule for the summit. This year's summit is themed Assuring Sustainable Water Availability and Safe Sanitation Systems to Achieve the Goals of Agenda 2063. Discussions will center on sustainable water management and improved sanitation systems. Leaders will also review broader development goals under the AU Agenda 2063 framework. Beyond the main sessions of heads of state and government, the Vice President will attend high-level side events. He is also expected to hold bilateral meetings with political and business leaders. The engagements are aimed at strengthening Nigeria's diplomatic, economic, and strategic partnerships across the continent. Speaking to journalists after briefing the Vice President, Ambassador Tugar described the launch of the Regional Partnership for Democracy (RPD) as a strategic move to consolidate and strengthen democratic culture in Africa. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has dissolved the State Executive Council. The decision was announced on Thursday in a statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Onwuka Nzechi. According to the statement, the Governor directed all commissioners and special advisors to hand over to the permanent secretaries or the most senior officers in their respective ministries and with immediate effect. Governor Fubara expressed appreciation to the outgoing members of the Executive Council for their service to the state and wished them well in their future endeavors. The dissolution comes 48 hours after Minister of the Federal Capital Territory FCT, Nyesom Wike, confirmed reconciliation efforts aimed at resolving the protracted political crisis in the state. The minister said President Bola Tinubu met with key political actors from Rivers State, including Governor Fubara and his predecessor, in a renewed attempt to ease tensions arising from the power struggle in the oil-rich state. The closed-door meeting held at the President's Villa was also attended by other Rivers leaders. The intervention came amid an ongoing impeachment process initiated against Fubara by lawmakers loyal to Wike, the third such notice which has since become the subject of litigation. Speaking on Tuesday after inspecting ongoing projects in Abuja, we could disclose that the meeting held on Monday, February 9, was at the instance of President Tinubu. He said the president took the initiative to broker peace between Governor Fubara and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. However, it remains unclear whether the pro-Wike lawmakers will withdraw the impeachment notice or whether the latest round of talks will translate into a lasting truce. Justice Obiora Gwatu has recused himself from two cases filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) against the former Attorney General of the Federation Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami. Justice Gwatu, who was recently reassigned the cases by the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, said he decided to withdraw for personal reasons and in the interest of justice. The two cases include a multi-billionaire asset forfeiture case concerning 57 properties and the 8.7 billion naira money laundering charges filed by the EFCC against Malami, his wife Asabi Bashiru, and his son Abdulaziz Malami. The development occurred shortly after the civil suit for the forfeiture of the 57 properties allegedly linked to Malami was called for mention. At the resumed hearing, counsel to the EFCC, Ekele Ihanacho, informed the court that the matter was scheduled for mention. He added that the commission had received a letter from Malami's counsel, Joseph Dauda San, seeking an adjournment to Monday, February 16. According to Ihanacho, Dauda stated that in the letter that he was at the Court of Appeal for another case, hence the need for adjournment. Shortly after, Justice Egwatu, in a briefing, ruled announcing his recusal. Although Dauda was not in court, lawyers for other respondents and applicants who had interest in some of the properties already placed on temporary forfeiture to the federal government were present. The cases were formally before Justice Emeka Nwite, who sat as a vacation judge during the Eurotide break. The Chief Judge had reassigned the cases to Justice Egwatu after the Christmas vacation sitting ended, with February 12 fixed for the civil case and February 16 for the money laundering case. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment. Just tuning in, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We go straight into our analysis segment where we have Raymond Adigboiga, a professor of banking and finance. He is also a current affairs analyst. Professor Adigboiga, thank you very much for joining us on the News at 12.
Good afternoon, Mr. Solomon. Good day.
So let's go to the first news on our item. The INEC has projected a total of over 873 billion naira for the conduct of the 2027 general election. Now, this is coming with the controversies coming from the Senate, where they've refused to approve compulsory transmission of election results through IREV. What's your take on this?
In the first instance, let's look at the budget in the first instance as a financial analyst. Is very, very ridiculous. And these are the things that we have been talking over even 2 decades in Nigeria, that when they bring out the election budget, you will see that it's outrageous. And in a situation where people are now clamoring for food, where people are now coming for good health service, where now people are clamoring for good education, and where people are clamoring for good standard of living, people are still, I don't know where we're going to get this thing right. Because in the last so many government, these present people in government, they are the people agitating that the federal government has been spending a lot of money and budgeting a lot of money for election. And at the end of the day, nothing will come out of this election that will be meaningful. You will see that after the election, we'll be hearing so many atrocities and so on. Where are we wasting our money on something that is not more that relevant? I will say it. The amount of money, if you have looked at the composition, if you look at the breakdown of the expenditure, you will be saying that it's very, very ridiculous. Because we are a nation where they are now merging capital expenditure with technology expenditure. What's different between the two? It's a sign of stealing. I'm telling you, I don't know when we are going to get this thing right. I've seen the breakdown and I'm so sad about it that even it's so sad that we're having so many these professors that are now joining the bandwagons. Even look at some and all of them, they are not being sincere. If they want to, they have to be honest and have a good sense of financial financial capability and ability to manage the little resources in this country. We need to get our priority right. That's my take as regards to that. Now let's come to this issue of even when you look at the budget, they say it's quite different from 171 billion, the budget for the commission.
Yes.
You can see now, so that is going to 1 trillion. If you look at by the time you add this together, it's going to 1 trillion to do an election that will not be meaningful to Nigerians. Then
I mean, you are the financial experts here, not me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. No, we need to get our priority right. We need to be very frugal in our spending. We don't have to continue to be spend. I know that majority of this money is going to personal pocket. We need to tell ourselves the truth, because it has been happening in the past. Because by the time you ask them to bring the breakdown, even when you look at the miscellaneous expenses, it's at least over 171 billion or so, or 41 billion or so. Even they are now saying that they are going to give the NYC additional cost. When I look at the money, and at the end of the day, this corper will not be able to have access to that money, and then they will be telling them they have to wait until the money is back home to another place. So we need to be very careful in this country. People are suffering. Let's do the real thing. Let's face the reality. Now let's come to this real-time
transmission of
results. In the first instance, Nigerians are uneducated about it. Even the so-called literate, they don't know what this real-time. I'm not saying anything spectacular that will come out of this real-time. Let there be the transmission through IREF. Even this what we call a INEC election result viewing. Even let it come. Will it give us a transparent election? No. He agreed. People are now saying that because it's not e-voting. It's quite different from e-voting. E-voting is when you vote immediately, you release your result to the transmission, and people will view it. But this one has to be collated by also completing from EC8A, which along the line, anything can go along. Because by the time the presiding officer is collecting this form, and the polling unit agents are trying to countersign and with candidates or anybody in there will be manipulation. But the problem is that I know that Nigeria is not right, because we have to tell ourselves the truth to start e-voting. Because ordinarily, our telephone that we are using now, we see how the network fails. Talk less of this e-voting. And then you have to realize there's one fundamental issue in Nigeria that we don't normally take note. That's human element. Nigerians generally, I don't know the kind of people we are. We tamper with anything that even talk of that technology, they will tamper with it. They don't know how to build it, but they know how to destroy it. That's one thing. And then you have to see that what normally causes all these things, those are the things that we're supposed to address. There are so many issues that normally cause problem of result manipulation. And it starts from the candidate. If you look at 1993 election, it was done manually. The election was so free and fair because of one fundamental going for electoral post. is for their own personal interest, not interest. People going for electoral posts is for their own personal interest, not interest of the nation. That's why we are in this position, in this problem today. And that's why I love Ubai when I had the Remi Tinubu, the president's wife, saying that Nigerians should learn how to embrace their and appreciate their leaders. Are the leaders appreciating the followers? Are they doing the right thing that they're supposed to? You don't have to ask for leadership. You don't beckon for leadership. It comes at its own accord when you do the need. So this real-time transmission will not do much. Although it's good that let it be released on time, but you have to look at it at the same time. It's man-made problems that normally cause this problem between the polling unit and the presiding officer. Even with the candidate, the polling unit representing a particular party may actually be bought over along the line. And that's why we have been having this problem. And everything centers on poverty and the way standard of living in the country. People are suffering.
Now, let us talk about the moment of controversy here. The commission projected about 209 billion naira. 209 billion naira for election technology cost. Reflecting provisions for electronic system and with this kind of money, we shouldn't be having an argument of if internet election. We shouldn't be having a controversy. We shouldn't be having an argument if transmission of the election results electronically is possible. Because with 209 billion naira,
it's a budget for another country.
Technology should be possible with this amount of money.
It's all rules. It's all lies. They are just wasting our money and they are just wasting our time. It's a pity. That's why I made mention that when you look at the capital, even that capital expenditure they are talking about, what made up of the capital expenditure? Are they started building structure for INEC, or they started buying a computer machine for INEC? The Bibles, they have so many Bibles already in existence. What they are going to use that capital expenditure for, and what they are going to use that technological expenditure for. They are not talking to fools. We are not mad. All of us are not novice. We know what it means. There should be what's the difference between the two expenditure. The two items need to be verified, and that's why I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the people in the post National Assembly, whether House of Rep or Senate. Most of them, they are there because of their own selfish interest. These are the things they need to be questioned. These are the things they need to ask INEC. What's the difference between the two? And what are they trying to use the money for?
Now, I don't think this 873 billion naira would be a problem for Nigerians if only they would deliver credible elections to Nigerians.
Mr. Solomon, you are not a kid. You have been in this government. You have been in this in existence for. You'll be up to 40 or 45 years. And can you tell me anytime they have spent a lot of money in the past that justified the election result? It will not, because there's something you have to realize in the first instance. The people doing this thing, they know what they are doing. The people that budgeted know that the money is not going to be spent judiciously in the first, and no result will come out that will be good. Because there are some people, they are already prepared their mind that they are going to win by all means, whether it's credible or not credible. That's why we continue to, maybe we are going to get there. When you look at the time lag now given by the Electoral Amendment Act, I'm still not satisfied with it. 150 days is too much to declare any candidate, maybe through the election tribunal. That's 5 months. What are we using 5 months for? These are the areas that INEC will be spending a lot of money on that. We're going to court and telling you that they are paying the legal advice and expenditure. So these are so many people. Look at the amount they're going to spend on what we call the short circuit or something election that they are going to contest to do. We are spending our money. Nigerians, don't say Nigerians are less concerned about their money. We are more concerned about that money because we know that at the end of the day, no credible result. Tell me any credible result you have seen in the last 20 years in Nigeria. The last credible result, tell me. Tell me, just tell me.
Meanwhile, members of the Joint National Assembly Conference Committee constituted to reconcile differences in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill passed because obviously they were passed separately by the Senate and the National Assembly. The Harmonization Committee will be meeting on Monday to harmonize the electoral bill. What do you think will come out of the bill? Because the reps, the House of Assembly actually passed the electronic transmission of results compulsory actually. So the problem has been from the Senate. What do you think the harmonization will be?
Let me tell you one thing today. I've seen I'm seeing the one passed by the rep. I've read it, and I've read the one. The two of them are the same. The answer among the cities, they are just wasting our money and spending on joint section. Nothing like joint section. Real-time transmission of election has nothing to do with. It's meaningless because until there is a good intention and people are conscious to serve this nation, whether the two of them come out, they don't come out, they don't pass it, what are they passing? Are they not releasing the same thing? And then there's one problem about that the two bills, the bills, that amendment bill, both by the House and the Senate, because the Senate can now put a kind of a caveat that if the technology fails, which is going to fail, that they can do it manually. Can you see? There's a loophole. So the only way out is for the people to be sincere in this country and let us move this country forward. There's no sincerity of purpose. People are just doing what they like and for their own personal interest. Because that's why the members of the public should be educated that we are not talking about e-voting. E-voting would have been better off if you have the necessary technology and equipment to do that. Because the moment somebody votes, the result of this election will show on the INEC portal. But this one, it has to be collected again manually by filling the EC8A form, which can be tampered with before transmission takes place. You understand? Election transmission is not the issue. The issue is with that election be a good and transparent.
Okay.
There's not 100% transparent election anywhere in the world, but that of Nigeria is terrible.
Okay, to another news item, Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia for the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of African Union, AU heads of states and government. Now, let's talk about AU. Some people have called the AU a docile organization when you consider the kind of leadership and the kind of governance that Africans have been getting from their leaders, which have triggered a recent surge in unconstitutional takeover and military coup. Here in Nigeria, we also experienced our own almost coup if the army and the federal government is to be believed anyway. And of course the Nigerians also helped Benin Republic fall the coup some weeks ago. When you look at the topic for discussion, this theme is assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation system to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Is this a reasonable thing for AU to gather about at this point in time?
In the first instance, like I've said, thank God I've been a assistant going to over 3 decades. 6 decades, I would say. I'm about 60. And I've been hearing about African Union, and there's nothing we are experiencing, or the masses, the Africans are enjoying from African Union. And that's why if African Union, when they started right from the onset, they actually faced the reality and they have done the needful. I won't deceive you. Today, we won't have anything like military coup in Africa. And at the same time, we won't have a kind of, should have had a one currency unit, should have a one common economy and an economic integration that will actually relieve African people and the business people individually by taking care of their welfare. But the African Union, these people are talking about, is a kind of a courtesan where the people who are the leaders are actually talking about how they will continue to enslave or it's another slavery. I'm saying it. And that's why you look at most of these new countries that are emerging now in Africa, especially being taken over by the military, they are now forming their own union and now doing away with African Union because they know that these people have seen a lot of atrocity being perpetrated by so many heads of states in Africa that they are not being sincere. They are only there for their own service, where they link their own businesses, where they thrive and make their own standard of living better than the people they are leading. We don't have good leaders in Africa. I would deceive you. I don't have any confidence in African Union and what they are talking about. I can be talking about sustainable drinking water in 2063. What happened to Vision 2010? What happened to Vision 2015? What happened to Vision 2020? What is now happening to Sustainable Development Goals for 2030? We are talking about 2063. To who? To who? Who people? People living now. You are talking about 2063. I just think that we are fools. We are not fools. Who are these people telling us? They don't have the idea. They don't have the IQ. I'm telling you, that's why I look at myself with my position, with my education. Someone will be telling me how to live my life. They'll be telling me something that I knew. These African Union people, all these presidents are rogues, they are criminals. I'm saying it openly today. Enough is enough. We don't have to tell you about goals, any goal you want to achieve in 2063. We are in 2025, 2026. What do you have for us on our table that we can eat now and can drink now? Is what we are really after. Don't start telling us anything about 20 or 40 years time. Who among us will be alive by then?
I mean, when you look at Africa, the only country that tends to practice anything remotely close to what democracy is supposed to be is South Africa. Every other country, maybe Ghana have started, working on their democracy. They're still far off.
If I tell you something today, agree, you'll be thinking that most of these countries being ruled recently by the military junta are not actually having good governance. I don't know what to tell about democracy should be about good governance. It's not so. If good governance is democracy, then you have to look at most of these African countries being led by military. I'm sorry to say it. We have to face reality. What are they doing? If are they practicing good governance? This good governance, then what is democracy? Any democratic, that's what I've been saying, any democratic setup that without discipline can never sustain Africa. I know our people. I know them. God, both the led and the led, they are terrible people. So we need discipline. We need people that these are the leaders or the followers. So to me, I will look at when you are trying to look at the country, because there's so many measurements or yardstick or benchmark that you need to take into consideration to say that one country is actually practicing good democracy. There are lots of things you have to try, and you have to take it from both sides, both the leaders and the led.
Thank you very much, Professor Adegboyega. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. You are welcome.
That was Raymond Adegboyega, current affairs, a professor of banking and finance, and of course a current affairs analyst, talking to Rosie Atira, Voice of the People, 90.3 FM on the news at 12. For a quick look at what's happening outside Nigeria, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has spoken of a defining moment and a new era as he travels to Europe for a major speech to the Munich Security Conference. Rubio will lead the U.S. delegation for the first major global event since President Donald Trump threatened Danish sovereignty in a pledge to annex Greenland. French President Emmanuel Macron has insisted Europe must prepare for independence from the U.S., while NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has stressed that transatlantic bonds are as close and important as ever. The war in Ukraine, tension with China, and the potential nuclear deal between Iran and the U.S. are also on the agenda as the security conference gets underway. At last year's conference, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance attacked Europe, including the UK, for policies on free speech and migration. His speech triggered a year of unprecedented transatlantic tension. For some 50 world leaders are set to attend the conference, which will discuss European defense and the future of the transatlantic relationship at a time when U.S. commitment to NATO has been called into question. Tensions have been heightened in the recent months as Trump has repeatedly said that Greenland is vital to U.S. national security, stating without evidence that it was covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen told reporters on Friday she planned to meet with Rubio to discuss the U.S. threat to seize Denmark's semi-autonomous territory from its NATO ally. The U.S. threats have been viewed by many European leaders as a watershed movement that has eroded trust in its biggest ally. And finally, on our sports news, Atletico Madrid produced an outstanding first-half display of attacking football as they thrashed La Liga leaders Barcelona in the first leg of their Copa del Rey semi-final. A bad night for the visitors also saw them denied a goal back in the second half when, after a record-equaling 8-minute check by the video assistant referee VAR, Paul Kubarski's strike was ruled out for offside. This was the second time in as many years these two sides had met at this stage of the competition, with Barcelona winning last year in their way to lifting the trophy for a 32nd time. But Diego Simeone's side gained revenge this evening for Barcelona as Eric Garcia's backside to Juan Garcia rolled under the goalkeeper's foot and trickled into his own net. The hosts doubled their lead in the 14th minute when the competition's top scorer this season, Antoine Griezmann, curled home a fine finish against his former club. From then on, Atleti took command and looked capable of scoring in every attack. Fermin Lopez did hit the woodwork for Barcelona, but that was a rare opportunity in the opening period as Atletico Madrid hunted for more goals. They added a third in the 33rd minute with Giuliano Simeone broke down the right before passing to Julian Alvarez, and former Manchester City forward clipped the ball across to Ademola Lookman, who drove in his second goal in as many games for his new club. Argentine Alvarez then ended his 2-month 11-match goal drought with an emphatic finish, thumping an unstoppable drive into the back of the net from distance in first half at a time. The loss has left Barcelona with all to do when they host the 10-time winners in the return leg on 3 March. And before we go here again, our top stories. INEC proposes over 873 billion naira budget for 2027 election. Vice President Kashim Shettima arrives Ethiopia ahead of AU summit. We also brought the story that Governor Similai Fubara dissolves Rivers Executive Council, and a judge withdraws from EFCC case against Malami. Outside Nigeria, Marco Rubio warns Europe of new era in geopolitics before big Munich speech. And in sports, Ademola Lookman scores as Atletico Madrid hammer Barcelona 4-0 in Copa del Rey semi-final. And that's the world news at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon Ofem. Do follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at VOP903FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.